Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, where we bring the mind, body, and gym together so you can improve your health, increase performance, and live your best life. For more information, visit thinkfitnesslife.com. Here are your hosts, Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Think Fitness Life podcast. My name is Matt Gluckman. I'm your co-host along with Eric Menchie. Today we have a very special guest with us, Mark Carbone, an inventor, technologist, and CEO of PN Medical. They're makers of intelligent medical devices for pulmonary and speech fields. And they have released a new device called the Breather 2, helping strengthen your ability to help build your capacity for your lung, and as well as reduce stress to improve your breathing and how it can pertain to your health and fitness. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you so much for having me.
Go ahead and talk to us a little bit about how you got started with this, Mark.
Sure. I've been an entrepreneur for a number of years, and about 10 years ago, I found out about PN Medical. And then 9 years ago, I became the CEO, and I just saw such a great opportunity. They had been doing a lot in the medical space, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's so much we could do for high performance athletes and more, that we could take this to all kinds of different populations around the world. So since then, last 9 years, we've invented some more products, some more protocols. We have some patents, and we're really trying to push the bar on how to get the best out of your cardiopulmonary, tools that are built inside of you. You have so much power built in that God already gave you. And we really try to do that all without drugs. So by doing respiratory muscle training, what you're doing, first off, you are strengthening the diaphragm. It is a very large, think of it as a parachute. It's sitting there in the middle of your trunk, of your torso. And a lot of people do not, it's very weak in a lot of people, especially if you have COPD. Of course, it's your lungs that are suffering, but by getting all the muscles, the primary and the secondary muscles around the lungs working properly, that will cause the lungs to become more efficient.
Yeah, I really love that you're already making such an impact with over 2 million people using your devices. And I love how it brings it back to the foundations of how the human body functions. And, when you think about the nervous system, conscious processes, subconscious processes, and parasympathetic nervous system, there's so many things going on that they're kind of anchored by our circadian rhythm and our respiration rate. And, I'm someone who loves meditation. I think one of the biggest profound benefits that comes from meditation is that you literally just sit down without distractions, and you're getting your body to completely breathe. Inhalation, exhalation, we talk about cellular respiration. We have 30 trillion cells in our body, and we can just kind of sit down and whether using this device, meditating, being able to get your body to breathe wholly really brings it back to the way it can function optimally. But what I'm curious about is, especially competing with people like Big Pharma.
Well, actually, I can't take credit. The company's been around for over 40 years. I just took it to the next level starting 9 years ago.
I see.
So we are launching the connected. So as soon as you put it in your mouth, I can tell so many things about you. I can predict an exacerbation 14 days before the patient even knows it. But
Wow.
what I wanted to do also is I wanted to hit those high performing humans as well, but also reach more people. The goal is we want to reach hundreds of millions. Yes, we're up to 2 million. And I want to reach more, and either through our new software platforms that we're launching, I would say competitive devices can use whatever I make. I don't care.
Yeah.
It pushes the ball forward. It's that whole Elon Musk thing. He invents so many things, and then he gives away the patents to it. So that I love that approach, that you just want to make society better.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, I do want to make a good living. I want to be able to be a great philanthropist later in life and give back. But still, I think it's good to push the ball forward. And yes, I don't like big pharma. Not one bit. Not
Yeah.
one bit what they're doing. It's a complex. The agri-pharma complex, you're right. Agriculture and pharma are actually the same thing now. So,
Yeah.
anything we can do to go back to what we humans already naturally knew how to do. We used to have straight teeth a couple hundred years ago. We didn't have cavities a couple hundred years ago.
Yeah.
We didn't have all this diabetes and all so many issues we have now that were not prevalent many years ago. So it's, let's win this back. I want to win it back for humanity.
And look, you've
That's
actually done that. You're curing people, and it's a sustainable business model. But I do want to bring it back for a second, just because you're right. If you want to, cure a symptom, it's like you're trying to get to the root problem with this device that isn't extremely expensive. And I'm curious. Like, let's talk a little bit about the modalities with the device or the protocols. Like, if I was maybe let's start with the athletic and performance side, and then we'll go to the obese side and curing side. But will I start to see benefits after the first day? Does it take a first month? So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, on first day, you feel something. There's a little
Huh?
bit of lightheadedness, euphoria, because you're actually breathing. You're truly taking the proper breath. But then that settles down after a couple days, and you start physically, and we see it scientifically. After as little as a week, you actually start getting the benefit. So a COPD patient will, if you were to measure their MIP and MAP, I'm talking medical here, but you're measuring how strong they're breathing, their maximum inspiratory and maximum expiratory, you're seeing an improvement. So, and then at the athletic level, you're seeing it in time trials. So their time trials improve. Their lactate acid, they hit their lactate threshold slower. Stress. So
Wow.
we did a resilience study at Mayo Clinic with the frontline MDs, the highest paid people at the hospital who were leaving in mass, or the retention rate was not good since COVID. And what do we do to keep our doctors and keep our nurses and all our clinicians coming to work? So we did a study with the frontline workers, and we helped reduce perceived stress by 18% just
Wow.
by doing this routine for 4 weeks. So, we always try to do studies at least 4 weeks. We don't have to do the multi-year. On the
Yeah.
weight loss study, to get it at the cellular level, we have to do it over 3 months. So that will
Okay.
help check-ins after 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And then at the athletic level, also improve sleep. And a big one that you see, this takes a number of weeks, but blood pressure, huge, very, very important.
Yeah.
You know how big that is. Sleep apnea, that improves. Snoring as well, because what you're doing is you are strengthening all the muscles too as you're doing this. Because, medically, we work a lot in speech with dysphagia, dysarthria, and dysphonia, which are, different types of, a lot of it, most of it is swallow. So swallow disorder. A lot of people die from choking, and we affect by strengthening all the muscles, you actually swallow better.
Wow. That's so fascinating.
And then since the Mayo study, we went for 2 patents, and we created a new device called Breather Recover. And what that does is, you touched on it, it hits at the dysautonomia. So what's happening since COVID, all of us, since we started wearing masks, which now we're finding out the masks weren't all that good, and they were
They're
not
causing more problems. Yeah.
yeah. So what happened is you started shallow breathing, because yes, people who work in a hospital, they're trained and they learn how to breathe through a mask. But the rest of the world, 92% of the rest of the world did not. And we were shallow, and we became shallow breathers, at least to a big point. And after you take off the mask, you were even shallow breathing for a while. So you have to reset that. And one of the patents is on resetting your breathing pattern, because you're just stuck in this sympathetic state. You're in this fight, flight, or freeze state throughout the day, and you're
Yeah.
never down regulating. If you don't get to that parasympathetic state, you're not going to sleep better. You're going to be more cranky, more grouchy, and you're going to have low energy. And it cascades, and it causes
Yeah.
a lot of other health issues to happen.
That's amazing. So So the breather 2 is used for strengthening, and you're using this other device called the breather recovery. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, actually, it's not breather 2, there's gonna be a breather X, that's the connected device, but there's the breather products that are for medical health and wellness. Then there's breather fit, that's got much higher pressures in the device because you have
Okay.
a stronger set of lungs, that's for
Mm.
athletes.
Okay.
Breather voice is for singers and actors and professional speakers. And then breather recover is when you're recovering from COVID or recovering from pneumonia or flu, which we're about to, I don't know when the airing of this podcast is, but we're about to hit the fall and it's going to be flu season again. So, breather recover is specifically for that.
Are these varying levels of intensity essentially then in terms of the differences of these devices is basically it sounds like the one for the performers is set up in a fashion so that it's much more difficult to use, but those athletes are already stronger, have stronger breathing mechanics. Is that correct?
Yeah, good question. It's three things based on where you are. So if you're trying to improve health and wellness, if you're trying to become a stronger athlete, or if you're trying to become a better performer, or if you are in recovery, the devices are either stronger or less intense. The
Okay.
protocols are different. So there are different breathing protocols. There's different
Gotcha.
training. And then the app that comes with it, the free app that comes with it, Breather Coach, has a whole set of different protocols. So based
Oh,
on where
cool.
you are, it's a different training program.
So it's like I order my device, I download the app, and based upon my goals and what device I ordered, the app just walks me through how to use it.
Correct.
Excellent. Wow, you guys really made it easy to follow. And you said is it typically two earlier you said like a morning workout with the device, then an evening one, is that correct?
Yeah, and it depends where you are. You start out by strength training because we feel, like I said, even professional athletes, NATO fighter pilots, we found that their diaphragms were compromised and their respiratory system and their respiratory function was a little bit dysfunctional. So y- w- so based on that, what you have to do is, yes, the app is set based on where you are. So you'll start with strength training, and then depending what you're doing, you go to a sustained training. So you don't have to do it as much. You start out 6 days a week,
Gotcha.
twice a day, and then you can actually go to a sustaining, which is just 3 times a week. And it can be as little as once a day, but it is the same as any other muscle group. This is a huge muscle group. It's
Yeah.
94 muscles in the respiratory system. And it also affects posture, which I'd love to get into that. But if you don't use it, you lose it. So
Yeah.
if you stop training, it actually does start diminishing over time.
So speaking on posture, my co-host Eric Menchie, he's Postural Restoration Institute certified, and that's why he loved talking about breathing. And one of the things that a lot of our audience probably has heard us say multiple times is that when it comes to our body, we actually have asymmetries, and usually has to do more with our breathing. And we talk about, number one issue and what number one thing in fitness is to do no harm. So we want to try to get people out of pain, then we want to try to get them to their best version of themselves. But the number one predictor of injury is previous injury. Number two predictor is asymmetries. Well, we already have a natural asymmetry because I have three lobes of my lung on the right side and only two, and my diaphragm is larger on the right side than it is the left side because we needed room for the heart. So, anatomically speaking, we tend to be driven more through our abdomen on our right side, our right oblique. It's hard for people, especially when I'm working with somebody for the first time. It's always harder for people to breathe, get that left oblique firing, which is important for their abdominal cylinder so that they're supporting their spine, whether they're sitting or moving. So to your point, how it affects your breathing or how breathing affects your posture is just paramount and something that we talk about here. But feel free to dive into that on one of the most interesting things that you found about how breathing affects posture.
Oh man, that's such a good topic. And I'm going to talk about, when you're trying to do something, you're lifting, you're running, you're exercising. So if you are trying or you're competing, I have two competitive sons. They're competitive surfers, and they use the breather fit. It's their little secret weapon. I guess it's not a secret weapon anymore. But it's
Yeah.
funny, people are lazy, so people will not do it. It's great. But anyway, what's interesting is that a lot of the limit to performance, it's 60% of the time, it's shortness of breath. So what happens is you have respiratory fatigue. So the diaphragm gets tired and it fatigues. And we help the diaphragm not fatigue so much. So when that happens, you get the you get the metabolic reflex kicks in, which guess what your brain and your body decides to do? It decides to start pulling all the blood to breathe, and it says,
Mm.
"Sorry, no more movement of those limbs." You cannot control that. Your body is naturally going to say, "This person has reached their limit, and I'm going to put all my focus on the 94 muscles of respiration." And what it affects then is what you said. It starts affecting your, your trunk.
Yeah.
And which is where all the muscles of posture matter. Like when you watch Usain Bolt, watch how he runs, how his trunk does not move until he reaches that point of fatigue. And then this is the easiest example. It's not always this, but when you see the marathoners at the end, if they've pushed it, there is no more motor control. I know there are various reasons for why you lose that motor control, but one of the big ones is, guess what? The body and the brain is
Pr-
saying, I need to breathe, so I could
Yeah.
care less about the posture anymore, and you lose it. So the more you're strengthening all those muscles of respiration, the more you're protecting that posture. And you're right, that does help with injury big time.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's so fascinating because, the pressurization.
You bring up a good point about the pressure. So where we really saw this is when we got selected to help, fighter pilots who wear G suits. So the G's are getting higher, the turns are getting more intense. So they're hitting the high G where you pass out a lot
Yeah.
faster now. And it's causing, it's causing death. And then it's causing 50 to $600 million planes to crash now
Yeah.
with the F-35s and the F-22s. So, what's happening is, the diaphragm just cannot it's not strong enough to handle all that movement, all those organs being moved around your body at such high intense levels. So that pressure, the diaphragm is that regulator, right? It regulates between the thoracic and then the abdominal and pelvic cavities. And when that pressure seal breaks, there goes your posture, there goes everything. So when the pressure outside is stronger than the internal pressure in your body, it's like a soda can. So Mary Massery, she's like phenomenal in the physical therapy world. And she did her thesis years ago on this, that think of your think of your trunk as a soda can. When it's full and closed, you cannot break that. It's so hard to break that can. But as soon as there's a tiny leak,
It
boom, you crush that, it
collapses.
collapses instantly. You got
Yeah.
to think of your body that same way. When you lose that pressure and the diaphragm starts losing, it starts fatiguing, everything starts breaking.
Basically teaching how to breathe and put pressurization in your lower abdomen. I like how you brought up earlier today is that we breathe. What was the data that you had around like we breathe really well up until a certain age, and then we start to do more chest breathing.
But it's just as you over the decades, first off, at around age 29, 30, your lung capacity starts diminishing. So you think you're just dying of a heart attack or something else. You actually are getting less and less oxygen until the day you die if you don't train it. So yoga really helps. Our device really
Mm.
helps. If you're
Hmm.
not using all those 94 muscles of respiration and the 125 of posture, you're going to compromise your lung capacity,
Mm.
so it's key. So, yeah, by the time you're
Wh-
65-ish, you actually the statistics are do not take a full breath for the rest of your life.
That's so crazy. But so talking a little bit about that in terms of how that could lead to problems later. I guarantee there's people who listening to this wondering, I wonder if I have a problem with my breathing. Let's talk a little bit about like some of the symptoms that people might notice early on if they're having breathing problems and some of the more serious problems that they might be experiencing that could be rooted from their breathing.
Yeah, that is a great question. So, it's such a slow onset, and we're just conditioned to think it's just aging.
Right. Right.
So if you're not a person that's always going out hiking or and doing, like I said, yoga works. I mean, I can't say anything bad about it.
Right.
If you're not activating your body, if you're not moving, if you're sitting so much, or if you're sedentary, you just start getting slower. You just can't, you just like, oh, I'm just too tired. Or you start walking and you walk fast and you can't walk the dog fast. You just think it's part of aging, and it does not have to be like this. Here's what I'm, this is part of my passion and my purpose now. My personal purpose, is I'm trying to crack the code on anxiety, sleeplessness, and low energy, but I'm also trying to
Mm.
give people better years of their life till they make their journey to heaven or hell. Just make those last years better, or all your last years
Yeah.
better on that journey.
Yeah. And I love that, you're not selling something that's like $5,000. And I feel like a lot of the times you're seeing that come about where somebody finds this innovative way to fix something and they know it works. And now the barrier of entry is so high that it defeats the purpose because it's not getting to the lowest common denominator, which is the most common problem. Right. And, I think it speaks to what you do, Mark, because you can tell that you're really passionate about what you do and you found your sense of purpose. And, I can also just tell I love that you've dove into so many different walks of life that this device has an application for. And I know that we've talked a lot about, healing or reversing obesity and COPD, and we've talked about improving people's performances, but let's talk about some of the innovative stuff that you're working on currently, which is it true that you're trying to reduce or reverse the symptoms of long COVID, or are you right now just kind of measuring it?
Yeah, with what we're doing with long COVID is that, a lot of the key symptoms are, and it's still debatable. It's from 10 to 40% of anyone who's had COVID gets long COVID, and you sometimes don't know it. It's you have this continuing. I've had COVID 4 times, and so I use my device just for myself, but I still struggle. I just had it again recently. So right now, as we're talking, I have brain fog, and it's hard for me to, string thoughts together, but I'm working through it. So you have fatigue, brain fog, sleeplessness, anxiety, breathlessness. Those things, what we do helps because first off, when you reset the autonomic nervous system, when you have that dysautonomia, that's part 1. So you do that protocol to get your breathing back. Try to get that breathing back to normal. It's almost like when you're doing a squat, if you're doing if you keep on doing the squat the wrong way, you're just gonna exacerbate, and you're just gonna cause more injury down the road. So if you use our devices without resetting your breath, you're just gonna use this powerful device that actually is gonna accentuate your
Add to the
breathing,
dysfunction.
this
Yeah.
dysfunction. I'm gonna multiply your dysfunction. So if you do it in 2 steps for long COVID, you first reset the system by doing that breathing technique, and then you start the respiratory muscle training with our device. And yes, we have seen some amazing results, and it does help ease those symptoms, and it does reverse some of those symptoms. So it has helped me with brain fog, fatigue, and low energy. But I've gotten hit with it so many times, and just recently, it was 7 weeks ago, so I'm still recovering from that last episode. And thank
Of
God I have
course.
my device, and I get to actually go, please, let's do another study on this, which we are going to do. I'm like, "Guys, I need help." So
Yeah,
we're gonna do 2 more long COVID studies. We're doing one in Germany soon, and we're doing another one. I think we're gonna do another one with Mayo Clinic real soon, or maybe Advent Health down in Florida.
I love that. You guys are at the brink of it all. Couple questions to wrap up here. Are you, is part of your measuring for progress, does it have to do with measuring hormones or anything with the lymphatic system or blood oxygen levels?
We try to when we're doing studies, we can do so many tests, right? But what we try to do to reach the most people across the world It's the long COVID study we did with Mayo. It had to be fully remote. All you had was an app and you had the device. You had no clinician calling you. You had no doctor. And we try to solve for as many people across the world and not make this expensive. So there's sit stand test, 6-minute
Okay.
walk, phonation test, like these basic tests they cost zero. It's no cost for you to do these tests.
Right.
You can
Right.
even do the bolt test.
The blood test, right?
Yeah, from Mark McEwen. And so there are a number of free tests you can do to see if you're
Okay.
improving. Yes, we do MIP and MEP. We can do blood tests.
But they're costly. They're costly, and then they would just get passed on to the consumer.
Yeah, they're thousands of dollars, and it's just, you still can get the results without spending all that money.
I love that. You guys have really thought things down or thought things out really to the finest detail. So, do you want to go ahead and let people know the cost associated with the product and where they can find it?
Sure, the devices range from $49 to $59. That's it, depending, medical or athlete. And just search the breather or search PN Medical. It's easier probably to search for the breather.
Mark, thank you so much for your time. What I guess I always like to ask people is what's their favorite exercise and if they have a favorite quote that comes to mind.
Oh wow, you got me on that one today. Well, 'cause I do have favorite quotes. I do have actually favorite quote I do have. It's a new quote is that God doesn't give the hardest battles to his toughest soldiers. He creates the toughest soldiers through life's hardest battles.
I love that.
And then what else did you ask?
Your favorite like exercise, favorite thing to do for exercise. And you can't say breathing.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I'm trying to my wife and I are trying to keep up with our boys. So we just started surfing.
Oh, nice. Nice. And so are they competing today in the championship?
No, I wish they're not old enough. They're at the pre-Olympic level, but they still have another 10 or so years to make it to this level. This is cool. It's the top 5 men and women from around the world are just like about 2 miles from me right now. And I think it's going to kick off on Sunday. It's going to be huge because one of the top men in the world actually lives down the street from here. So the local population is just going crazy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Mark, thanks so much for your time.
If you're ready to make steps towards improving your health or increasing your performance, book a free 30-minute call today by visiting thinkfitnesslife.com.